Have you ever noticed that the more you try to impress others, control outcomes, or force life to happen, the more everything seems to slip away? And strangely, the moment you let go, stop trying so hard, and simply be yourself, life begins working in your favor. This is not luck. It is the law of reverse effect, and Buddhism has been teaching this truth for centuries. What you cling to creates suffering. What you release sets you free. So ask yourself, why do you care so much? And why should you stop caring? What if the day you finally let go is the day you finally start winning? 1. Stop giving your power away. The day you stop giving your power away is the day life finally softens in your hands. For so long, you've carried the weight of opinions, expectations, and invisible pressures. And maybe you didn't notice how quietly they drained your peace. Ask yourself gently, why do we suffer not from life itself, but from the meaning we attach to everything? Because the mind grabs every moment, every word, every small shift, and turns it into a story. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us, nothing can disturb you unless you permit it. Pause here. Let that sink in. In the old monasteries, monks would say that a candle does not argue with the wind. It simply burns with stillness. It doesn't try to control the breeze, nor does it dim itself for the darkness around it. You are no different. You suffer when you try to force the world to behave the way you wish. But the moment you release that attachment, freedom slowly approaches. Breathe deeply now, and imagine every opinion, every judgment, every fear falling off your shoulders like dust that no longer belongs to you. Think about the times you handed your peace to someone else's reaction. The moments when one comment ruined your entire day. The situations where you bent yourself to meet expectations that were never yours. This is how we unknowingly give away our power. Not because the world is harsh, but because we forget we can choose how deeply things touch us. What steals your peace the quickest? Who have you allowed to define your worth? In Buddhist philosophy, the real battle is not outside. It is within the mind that clings. When you stop caring about every disturbance, something miraculous happens. The disturbance stops controlling you. This is the turning point most people never reach. And yet, once you touch it, even for a moment, you start to see how much of your suffering was self-created. So here is the quiet truth. The less you react, the more powerful you become. When you stop giving your power away, you finally begin to walk as your true self, calm, grounded, unshaken. And life, it starts working for you, not against you. Remember this moral line: the moment you stop caring about what you cannot control, life finally bows to your presence. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "My peace is priority." 2. The paradox of trying less. There comes a moment in life when you realize that the harder you push, the further peace slips away. You try, you chase, you force outcomes, believing effort alone will unlock the future you desire. But here is the quiet paradox. The day you stop forcing life is the day life begins to open effortlessly. Ask yourself softly, why does success come when you stop forcing life? The answer is hidden in ancient wisdom. Water flows because it does not resist. In the old teachings, monks often compared the mind to a river. A river never pushes, yet it shapes mountains. It moves with patience, not pressure. It allows gravity to guide it, not desperation. And still, it reaches the ocean every time. When you stop gripping the world with tension, you begin to flow like that river. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine your life moving with gentle momentum, the kind that comes from trust, not fear. See every task, dream, and intention drift forward naturally without the tightness of trying too hard. Think about the areas in your life where you've been forcing instead of allowing. Maybe you've chased validation until it exhausted your spirit. Maybe you've pushed yourself to meet expectations that only tightened your chest. Or maybe you've tried to control outcomes that were never meant to be controlled. What are you chasing that doesn't need chasing? What softens when you breathe instead of control? In Buddhist wisdom, the more you cling, the more you suffer. But the more you release, the more the universe has room to move in your favor. Trying less does not mean caring less. It means caring wisely. It means letting your intentions be pure while allowing life to unfold in its own rhythm. This is the secret turning point most people overlook. Effort alone does not bring peace. Alignment does. And here lies the spiritual shift. When your actions come from inner calm rather than inner chaos, they carry a deeper power. When you stop trying to force timing, people, or outcomes, your energy becomes clear, steady, and magnetic. Life begins to respond to you, not because you demanded it, but because you finally stopped standing in its way. Hold this truth close. When you flow instead of force, life finally moves with you, not against you. 3. Release the addiction to approval. There comes a quiet moment in every life when you must ask yourself, who am I when no one is watching? Not the version shaped by expectations, not the version polished for approval, but the real self beneath the noise. So much of our suffering begins the day we start performing for the world. And so much of our freedom begins the day the performance ends. Buddhist wisdom whispers, freedom begins when the mask falls. Let that settle gently in your heart. We spend years adjusting ourselves, shrinking here, stretching there, hoping the world will offer its approval in exchange. But approval is a fragile currency. It disappears the moment you stop doing what others want. A tree does not shrink itself to impress other trees. It grows because growth is its nature. You too were never meant to bend your truth just to be accepted. The day you stop caring about being liked is the day you finally begin to live as you truly are. Take a breath and imagine yourself walking through the world with no need to explain, justify, or prove anything. Feel the weight lift. Feel the space expand around your spirit. When you no longer seek permission to be yourself, your energy becomes still, steady, unshakable, like a mountain untouched by the opinions below. This is the kind of inner freedom the Buddha spoke of, the freedom that comes from releasing attachment to others' perception. Now, reflect gently. Whose approval are you still seeking? A parent's, a partner's, the world's? What part of you is afraid to be seen? Behind every need for validation lies a hidden wound, the belief that you are not enough on your own. But ask yourself, if you lived for truth and not validation, would you still be the same? Or would something inside you finally awaken? This is the turning point where power returns to you. When you stop needing others to validate your worth, you become the source of your own strength. When you stop performing, you become real. And when you become real, life begins to align effortlessly. People respect you more. Your path becomes clearer. Your mind becomes lighter. Remember this truth like a soft lantern in the darkness. The day you no longer seek approval is the day your soul finally steps into its full height. 4. Detachment is not indifference. It is inner mastery. There is a quiet art to living with an open heart while still remaining whole within yourself. Many people confuse detachment with coldness, but in Buddhist wisdom, detachment is not the absence of love. It is the presence of inner mastery. The real question is not, how do you care less, but how do you love deeply without losing yourself? This is the doorway to true freedom. The old teachings remind us, hold everything with open hands. Attachment squeezes, it tightens, it demands, but love, real love, allows. Think of the sky for a moment. The sky never clings to passing clouds, yet it receives them fully. It does not hold them hostage. It does not fear their leaving. It simply remains vast, steady, and whole. You too are meant to be like that sky. Imagine yourself holding something, a relationship, a dream, a hope, gently. Not tight, not loose, just enough. Enough to honor it, but not enough to imprison your own peace. Take a slow breath and reflect. What are you gripping that needs space? A person, an outcome, a version of yourself you've outgrown. Most attachment masquerades as love, but underneath lies fear. The fear of losing, the fear of being alone, the fear that without this thing or this person, you might lose your identity. Ask yourself softly, is my attachment love or fear? Detachment is not letting go of the world. It is letting go of the belief that the world must behave a certain way for you to be okay. It is not withdrawing from life. It is stepping into it with clarity. It means you are no longer pulled by every emotion, shaken by every situation, or controlled by every desire. It is the quiet recognition that you can care without clinging, give without losing, love without breaking. This shift is where inner mastery is born. When you release the need to hold everything so tightly, something magical happens. What is meant for you stays with ease, and what is not meant slips away without destroying your spirit. Detachment reveals who you are without the things you cling to. And in that revelation, you rediscover your own strength, your own calm, your own center. Carry this truth gently. When you hold life with open hands, you don't lose anything. You simply make space for what is truly yours. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "My peace is priority." 5. When you stop chasing, you become magnetic. There is a mysterious truth woven through every spiritual path. The more desperately you chase something, the further it slips from your hands. But the moment you become still, life begins to move toward you. Ask yourself softly, why does desperation repel and inner calm attract? Buddhist wisdom answers with a quiet certainty. You find what you stop searching frantically for. When the mind stops grasping, the world stops running. Think of a rose. It does not chase the bee. It does not shout for attention. It does not contort itself to be chosen. It simply stands in its nature, and every bee finds it. This is magnetism born from authenticity, not pursuit. To embody this, imagine yourself as a mountain, silent, steady, unmoving. In that stillness, you radiate a quiet confidence, the kind that does not beg for anything to stay or force anything to happen. Reflect gently. Where are you chasing approval, results, or belonging? Maybe you're running after love that keeps slipping away. Maybe you're pushing so hard for success that it feels like climbing a hill made of sand. Maybe you're trying to fit into places that were never meant to hold your spirit. What if, instead of running, you allowed life to rise to meet you? What would happen if you trusted timing instead of forcing outcomes? In Buddhist teaching, chasing is a form of fear. The fear that without effort, without grasping, Without constant movement, you will miss what is meant for you. But calm is a form of power. When you move from a place of inner steadiness, your energy becomes aligned, clear, and quietly influential. People sense it. Opportunities respond to it. Life rearranges itself around it. Desperation creates noise. Calm creates gravity. This is the spiritual turning point. When you stop chasing, you stop leaking your energy outward. You return to yourself. And in that return, something shifts. You begin to attract what resonates with your truth, not your fear. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine living this way. No frantic motion, no anxious grasping, just steady presence. Notice what feels different when you simply allow. Notice the spaciousness. Notice the strength. Hold this wisdom close. When you stop chasing what is uncertain, you become a magnet for what is meant. Life always moves toward the one who stands calmly in their own light. 6. Break the illusion of control. There comes a moment when you must pause and ask yourself, what if control is the cause of stress, not the solution? We cling, we tighten, we push, believing that tension will protect us. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us, life unfolds with or without your tension. Control is a comforting illusion, one that exhausts the mind and drains the heart. Imagine holding your hand in a tight fist. A clenched fist cannot receive blessings. An open palm can. This is the essence of inner freedom. Learning to release the grip you have on how life should be. Take a slow breath now and unclench your hands gently. Feel the difference between tension and openness. This simple gesture mirrors the inner shift you are being invited to make. Reflect quietly. What are you trying too hard to control? A person, a situation, your future. Maybe you've been gripping the idea of how life must unfold so tightly that you haven't allowed space for anything new to enter. Most suffering begins when we try to force a river that was designed to flow on its own. Ask yourself softly, what could I trust instead of manipulate? The Buddha taught that fear grips, but awareness releases. When fear guides your choices, you tighten around outcomes. You cling to comfort, routine, and predictability. You attempt to bend life to your expectations. But when awareness guides you, you step into a deeper truth. Not everything is meant to be controlled. Some things are meant to be witnessed, accepted, or allowed. In this shift, a new kind of peace arises. Think of the times when your worry changed nothing. Think of how much energy you spent trying to predict, prevent, or perfect every moment. And notice, life unfolded anyway. This realization is not defeat. It is liberation. The less you control, the more clearly you see. The more you allow, the more life reveals its natural rhythm. This is the spiritual turning point. The moment you choose trust over tension, release over gripping, awareness over fear. When you loosen your grasp on outcomes, life begins to move with you, not against you. And strangely, the things meant for you begin to arrive with ease. Carry this truth gently. When you stop trying to control everything, life finally has the space to bless you. 7. Quiet the noise of comparison. There is a silent suffering that follows you whenever you compare your path to someone else's. It steals your joy in moments that should have been peaceful, and dims your light in places where you were meant to shine. Ask yourself gently, why does comparison make you blind to your own gifts? Because the moment you look outward for worth, you lose sight of the sacred brilliance already blooming within you. Buddhist wisdom holds a simple truth. A lotus never wishes to be bamboo. It grows exactly as it is meant to, without apology. Comparison is a thief dressed as motivation. It convinces you that your life should look like someone else's, that your pace is wrong, that your timing is late. But the moon does not compete with the stars. It shines in its timing. Some seasons are for rising, some seasons are for resting, and none of them require you to measure yourself against another being on this earth. Picture yourself standing alone in nature. Enough, complete, incomparable. Feel how nothing out there asks you to change. The trees do not rush you. The mountains do not judge you. Existence accepts you as you are. Reflect for a moment. Who do you compare yourself to the most? A friend, a stranger online, a version of yourself you think you should be by now? What is uniquely yours that you've never honored? A strength, a perspective, a quiet talent, a way of seeing the world. Comparison blinds you to these gifts. It tells you to mimic what others have, instead of cultivating what is already waiting within you. In Buddhist teaching, envy is a form of ignorance of your own potential. When you compare, you forget that every soul has a different path, a different lesson, a different unfolding. Just as flowers bloom in different seasons, human beings rise in different timings. Your journey cannot be measured by someone else's milestones. And here lies the turning point. If comparison vanished, what would you dare to become? Who would you give yourself permission to be? When the noise of comparison fades, confidence grows quietly. Clarity returns. You begin to walk like someone who understands their value does not fluctuate with the world's opinion. Carry this truth like a candle in your heart. You were never meant to compete. You were meant to shine in the timing written for you. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "My peace is priority." 8. Let go of the identity you outgrew. There comes a moment in your journey when you must pause and ask yourself, am I living as who I was or who I'm becoming? So much of our suffering comes from holding on to an old identity long after it has served its purpose. Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us, to evolve is to release the past version of yourself. Growth demands shedding, transformation asks for surrender, and peace arrives the moment you stop clinging to the self you have outgrown. Think of a snake for a moment. It does not mourn its old skin. It does not cling to what has already become too tight, too small, too restrictive. It simply releases, and in that release, it walks forward, renewed. You, too, are meant to shed the layers of old expectations, outdated stories, and identities that no longer reflect your truth. Imagine stepping out of your old self like shedding a layer. Light, expanded, unburdened. Feel that freedom for a breath. Now reflect with honesty. What identity limits you? Perhaps it's the belief that you must stay the same to be accepted. Perhaps it's the story that you are not enough, not capable, not ready. Perhaps it's the version of yourself shaped by others' opinions, not your own wisdom. These identities cling to your spirit like old clothing that no longer fits. Who would you be without the story you repeat, without the labels you inherited, without the fears you memorized? In Buddhist teaching, the self is not a fixed entity. It is a flowing river, changing shape with each moment of awareness. Suffering arises when you freeze this river, when you insist on being someone you no longer are. Letting go of your old identity is not betrayal, it is evolution. It is the quiet understanding that you cannot carry yesterday's version of yourself into tomorrow's path. This is the spiritual turning point, recognizing that a new version of you is waiting, one that is calmer, clearer, stronger, more aligned. What new version of you wants to emerge? Can you feel the whisper of this future self? The one who is not controlled by past wounds, old habits, or outdated beliefs. The one who breathes with confidence, who moves with clarity, who trusts their own path. When you stop caring about staying who you were, you finally win the freedom to become who you are meant to be. Release the identity that keeps you small. Step into the one that calls you forward. Carry this truth gently. When you shed who you once were, you make space for the person you were always meant to become. 9. Stop negotiating with your old limits. The mind has a strange habit of holding tightly to the familiar, even when the familiar is the very thing that hurts us. Ask yourself softly, why does the mind cling to what is familiar, even if it hurts? Because the old limits feel safe, predictable, known. Yet every spiritual path whispers a deeper truth. Growth begins where comfort ends. You cannot carry your old restrictions into a new life. At some point, you must stop negotiating with the limits that keep you small. Think of a seed resting in the dark soil. It cannot bloom unless it breaks its own shell. That cracking, that opening, that moment of surrender. This is what allows it to rise. You are no different. There are shells around you, old beliefs, old fears, old excuses, and each one must break for your spirit to expand. Close your eyes for a moment and see yourself crossing an invisible threshold, stepping boldly from limitation into possibility. Feel the shift in your chest. Feel the widening of your inner sky. Now reflect honestly. What fear has led you instead of courage? Maybe it's the fear of failure, whispering that you're not ready. Maybe it's the fear of judgment, telling you to stay quiet, stay small, stay familiar. Or maybe it's the fear of the unknown, a fear that choosing growth means losing control. But growth is not loss, it is transformation. And every transformation begins with one decision. I will not stay where I once felt safe. Ask yourself, which excuses are you finally ready to outgrow? Excuses that say, I'll start later, I'm not good enough, or life isn't on my side. These excuses are cages disguised as comfort. They keep you negotiating with your limits instead of breaking them. But the moment you stop bargaining with your old patterns, a new level of power awakens within you. This is the spiritual turning point, the moment when you choose courage over fear, expansion over safety, truth over comfort. What would you attempt if failure didn't exist? What dream would you walk toward? What version of yourself would finally rise? When you stop caring about protecting your old boundaries, you create space for a life much larger than your past. Carry this truth as your guiding flame. No one wins by staying inside the walls they built for themselves. You win the moment you choose to step beyond them. 10. Protect your inner stillness. There comes a moment on the path when you realize that your greatest strength is not how loudly you fight, but how quietly you remain centered. Ask yourself, what happens when peace becomes your normal state? When stillness stops being a rare visitor and becomes the home you return to every day? In Buddhist wisdom, this is the highest victory, when your inner world no longer bends every time the outer world shakes. A calm mind is an unshakable power, not because it escapes life, but because it meets life without collapsing. Imagine a lake at dawn. Its surface, once disturbed, begins to settle. Only when it stops trembling can it reveal the sky with perfect clarity. Your mind is this lake. Every comparison, every argument, every unnecessary battle is a stone thrown into it. Protecting your inner stillness means choosing carefully which stones you allow to touch the water. It means listening to your breath, slow, soft, steady, until the noise of the world loses its power over you. Reflect softly. What disturbs your peace the fastest? Is it someone's opinion, a memory, your own expectation of perfection? Often the world is not what shakes you. It is your unguarded mind, absorbing every ripple. To protect your stillness, you must become a gentle guardian of your inner space. Not harsh, not rigid, just aware. Aware enough to say, "This thought does not belong," or "This situation does not need my energy." Think about the boundaries you've avoided setting. How many times have you allowed someone to cross the lines of your peace because you didn't want to disappoint them? How many times have you kept quiet, tolerated chaos, or taken on burdens that were never yours? Peace is not passive. Peace requires courage. The courage to choose what nurtures you over what drains you. Ask yourself with honesty, do you protect your mind like something sacred? Because it is. Your mind shapes your reality, your choices, your destiny. When you guard your stillness, you no longer react blindly. You respond with clarity. You no longer carry the world inside you. You carry only what aligns with who you are becoming. The day you stop caring for the noise outside and start caring for the silence within, that is the day you finally win. For nothing is more powerful than a human being who has learned to remain calm in a world that never stops moving. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "My peace is priority." 11. Trust life's timing. There comes a quiet moment on the path when you finally realize that all the rushing, all the insisting, all the forcing has only pushed what you desire further away. And you begin to wonder, why do the right things arrive only when you stop insisting? In Buddhist wisdom, this is the paradox of life. The softer you hold it, the more beautifully it unfolds. Nothing forced grows beautifully. Not relationships, not dreams, not even your own evolution. Imagine a fruit tree standing in silence. It does not demand the sun to rise earlier or the rain to fall faster. It simply receives, trusts, and waits. A fruit ripens only in its season, no sooner, no later. And you too are ripening in your own season. Life is not late, and neither are you. The delay you fear may be the very protection you need, shaping you in ways you cannot yet see. Pause and reflect. What are you rushing right now? Is it success? Love? A breakthrough? A version of yourself you think you should already be? When you rush, you step out of harmony with the present moment. You create tension in the very space where growth is meant to breathe. Patience is not passive. It is an act of deep trust. Trust that life is wiser than your timeline and kinder than your fear. Ask yourself, what would patience look like here? Perhaps it means taking one honest step instead of 10 desperate ones. Perhaps it means listening more than pushing. Perhaps it means understanding that the universe is rearranging things in silence, preparing what you asked for, but only when you are ready to receive. A clenched mind, like a clenched fist, cannot hold a blessing. And then, consider a deeper question. What if the delay is protection? What if the doors you thought were meant to open would have led you away from your truth? What if the people who didn't stay were never meant to walk the next part of your journey? Life has a way of removing what would have broken your spirit and gifting what strengthens it. but only in the timing that aligns with your inner becoming. When you stop caring about how quickly things must happen and start caring about how deeply you are growing, you begin to win a different kind of victory. One rooted not in speed, but in alignment. And in that alignment, life meets you gently, right on time. Bonus lesson. Be who you truly are. There comes a moment on the inner path when you realize that the greatest exhaustion does not come from life itself, but from all the pretending you carry. You adjust your tone to fit the room. You shape your steps to match expectations. You shrink or stretch to please the eyes watching you. And quietly, this question begins to echo. What if authenticity is the greatest form of power? There is no enlightenment in pretending. These words strike like a bell in an empty valley, clear, undeniable, impossible to ignore. A bell rings fully only when it is struck as itself. If it tries to sound like another bell, the tone becomes dull. And so it is with you. Every time you dim your truth to fit, you blunt the sound of your own spirit. Every time you hide your real feelings, your real desires, your real voice, a part of your inner resonance disappears. Authenticity is not rebellion. It is alignment. It is the sound of your soul ringing without distortion. Visualize yourself standing boldly as your true self, with nothing to hide, nothing to defend, and nothing to prove. Feel the relief that comes when the masks fall away. This is the moment Buddhist wisdom points to, not the achievement of something new, but the shedding of what is false. Enlightenment is not an addition, it is a returning to simplicity, to honesty, to who you were before the world taught you to perform. Reflect gently. Where am I still performing for the world? Is it in the way you speak, hoping to be liked? In the dreams you chase, hoping to be admired? Or in the boundaries you avoid setting, hoping to be accepted? Notice how much of your suffering comes not from truth, but from the fear of revealing it. Then ask, what truth in me needs expression? The truth that you are stronger than you let on? The truth that you are tired of pretending everything is fine? The truth that your life is meant to be far more expansive than the role you've been playing? Truth does not demand, it invites. It invites you back to yourself. Finally, sit with the deepest question. If I stopped caring what others think, how would I live? You might speak more honestly. You might walk more boldly. You might pursue the life that actually belongs to you. And in that moment, you stop surviving through roles and begin living through truth. This is when you finally win, not by becoming someone else, but by returning to who you truly are. Quick summary of the principles. Stop giving your power away. You lose peace when every comment, action, or situation controls you. Freedom begins when you stop reacting and start observing. Your power returns the moment you choose inner stability over external noise. The paradox of trying less. When you stop forcing life to fit your expectations, clarity emerges. Ease doesn't mean laziness, it means alignment. Success flows naturally when effort becomes intentional, not desperate. Release the addiction to approval. Seeking validation keeps you imprisoned in the opinions of others. Authenticity creates a deeper sense of belonging than perfection ever will. You become truly powerful when you no longer need permission to be yourself. Detachment is inner mastery. Letting go isn't abandonment, it's emotional intelligence. Detach from outcomes, not from care, presence, or love. When your peace is no longer dependent on results, you become unshakable. Stop chasing, become magnetic. People, opportunities, and success gravitate toward calm certainty. Chasing communicates lack. Allowing communicates trust. Your energy becomes far more attractive when rooted in self-worth. Break the illusion of control. Life cannot be fully controlled, only responded to with wisdom. Control creates tension, while acceptance creates peace. Let go of the need to manipulate outcomes and trust the unfolding. Quiet the noise of comparison. Comparison blinds you to your own gifts and path. Your journey is unique. No one is ahead or behind you. Peace comes when you measure growth against who you were, not others. Let go of the identity you outgrew. Growth requires releasing outdated habits, beliefs, and roles. You are not defined by who you used to be. Evolution happens when you allow yourself to step into who you're becoming. Stop negotiating with old limits. Comfort often disguises fear, and fear disguises stagnation. Growth begins the moment you challenge your excuses. Progress requires discipline, courage, and self-honesty. Protect your inner stillness. Your peace is a form of spiritual wealth. Guard it. Everything in life feels different when the mind is calm. When stillness becomes a priority, clarity becomes effortless. Trust life's timing. Not everything meant for you will arrive when you want it. Patience is not waiting, it is trusting. Good things mature slowly, but they arrive with purpose. Be who you truly are. Authenticity is the highest form of spiritual confidence. Peace grows when you stop performing and start living. When you embody your truth, life aligns around your existence. There comes a moment in every soul's journey where exhaustion becomes wisdom. When trying too hard finally collapses into effortless being. In that moment, you begin to understand that peace isn't something you chase. It's something you uncover by releasing everything that disturbs it. When you stop caring about opinions, timing, approval, or outcomes, you return to the simple truth. You already are enough. The world responds differently when your spirit is whole and your mind is no longer begging for acceptance. So walk gently, not because you're weak, but because you no longer need force to prove your strength. Live fully, not because you fear missing out, but because your heart finally understands presence. And breathe deeply, because life is not a battlefield, it is a sacred opportunity to awaken. The greatest victory is not dominance over the world, but mastery over the self. When nothing can take your peace, everything becomes possible. Like and share this video. Share your opinion in the comment box.